Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, hello.
Sam Healey, what's up?
Ticket to Ride, Rails and Sails. This was certainly one of my most anticipated games of Gen Con 2016 because it's Ticket to Ride.
Yep.
And there's been a lot of expansions last year. Ticket to Ride an expansion, which was Pennsylvania and UK, which is possibly my favorite version of Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
This one is a standalone game. You do not need to own any Ticket to Rides before this. You can buy this. In fact, if you notice, the box is bigger than a normal Ticket to Ride size box by about 50%. There's a lot more pieces. There's a lot more game in here. It adds ships. And so, well, let's take a look at how the game plays. Now, if you're watching this review, we're going to assume you already know how to play basic Ticket to Ride. So we're going to talk about the differences here between this and regular Ticket to Ride. Now, you'll notice that this board is huge. I can barely fit it on my table. It's a double-sided board. This side shows the world, the other side shows the Great Lakes. The sides have some differences, but there's many things that are similar amongst them. First of all, players are going to have some pieces. Not only are they going to have the regular trains from Ticket to Ride, they're also going to have boats here, or ships. They also have 3 harbors. They need to build these harbors by the end of the game. Each harbor that they don't build is going to be a -4 points. Now, even though players get a whole pile of ships and trains, they do not have to start with the same number of each. At the beginning of the game, they're going to pick a total number, and that number is going to change. This map has more than the other side, and you may want more ships perhaps on this map, for example, than you would want on the Great Lakes map. Once you take whatever your starting pieces are, and the book has recommended numbers if you're confused, but once you take those, you're kind of stuck with them. As the game goes by, let's say you run out of ships and you want to build more ships. You can turn in some of your trains for an equal number of ships, but you will lose that many points. So as one of your actions, I might say I want to get rid of 3 trains and take 3 ships instead. I can do so, but it's going to be at the loss of 3 victory points. Now, to play these, there's going to be different cards. You'll see up here, there's going to be 6 cards that players will have. At the beginning of the game, these cards are going to be drawn from a train deck and a ship deck. And so the train deck is very similar to the regular Ticket to Ride, except there's only 6 colors. And the train deck also has wilds in it. This can be a wild train or a ship. The wilds are only in the train deck. The ship deck is going to have either single ships, you'll see this is a single yellow ship, or double ships in it. This counts as 2 pink ships. And so players are going to be drawing from these. When you draw one, let's say I draw these 2 pink ships, I can replace that from either of the 2 piles. So perhaps I want to replace it. And just like the base game, if you take a wild, that's the only card you can take from the face up. And if there's 3 wilds here, they all get wiped and 3 cards come out from the top of each one. However, it is very possible as players play that all the cards there are either trains or ships. Now, as players get these cards and put them in their hand, they're going to want to play them on the board to connect routes. The game has ship routes, so you can only use ships between these spots, and it has train routes where you can only use trains. There are some new difficult spots on the board where you can use trains, but you have to use 2 cards per each spot. So here I need 2 cards, here I need 2 cards. They need to be the same color, but this could be 2 reds, this could be 2 yellows to build between those spots. There are also big giant routes on the boards, and this one, for example, goes up to 7, which gives you 18 points, and 8, which gives you 21 points. And on this map in particular, the world map, there are routes that go over the board, that crisscross. You can see here from Tokyo, there's a black and or green route that goes to Los Angeles. You'll also see a white route here that goes to Vancouver, and so these come over here on the other side of the board. Sometimes the end of the route is here. Sometimes it just goes right to the different cities there. So players are going to have to keep that in mind. Players are going to be doing this to complete tickets. The game comes with tickets, so These tickets, there's a lot of very large tickets in the game. For example, this one here is 17 points, 13 points, 14 points, and connecting various cities all over the board. And so you're going to keep track of the different cities that it's going to be connecting. But there are some very specific tickets now. This one here shows Tehran to Lahore to Mumbai to Bangkok. If you connect all 4 of those cities in that order, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, you'll get 13 points. If you connect them in some sort of order, it doesn't matter how you connect them, you'll get 9. But if you don't connect all 4 of those cities at all, you're going to lose 19 points. And so tickets like that could be worth a lot of points, but are much harder to pull off. Now, most of the tickets in this deck are basically the same, but there's a few of these tickets which are huge tickets. You can see this one here starts in Anchorage, goes all the way over to Tiski, and if you connect all 5 of those cities in order, 34 points. But if you don't, minus 40. So you better think carefully before you take these tickets. The rules are basically the same. On your turn, you can draw cards. You can exchange trains for ships or vice versa. You can draw more tickets, or you can play trains on the board. Or you can play a harbor. Now, to put a harbor out, each city can only have 1 harbor. When you put a harbor out in a city, and it has to be a city that accepts harbors, you have to play 4 cards. You have to play 2 ships and 2 trains. Each of those ships and trains has to have a harbor symbol on it. So, for example, this pink train does not have a harbor symbol on it. This one does. Double ships never have the harbor symbol on them. And every wild card does have a harbor symbol on it, which makes wild cards especially useful. So if I have these 2 cards, this, and I had another wild, that would be enough. And then I can place that harbor anywhere where there isn't a harbor. At the end of the game, each harbor is going to give points based on the number of tickets that you have that are attached to that city. So on this side of the board, if I have one ticket that has a destination that ends in a place where I put a harbor, I get 20 points. If that city has 2 tickets going into it, 30, and if it has 3 or more, you will get an extra 40 points. So harbors can get you a lot of points, and remember, you will lose 4 points for each one that you don't complete. Now let's take a quick look at the other side of the board. This here is the Grand Rapids side of the board. There's less water on this side of the board. It does not wrap. You will get fewer trains, although it does have the big long routes that go 8 and 9. It does not have those double train spots. So essentially, it's maybe more of an easier place to play. There is some interesting routes, like for example here from Duluth to Thunder Bay. You can see that you can either take a boat route there, or you can take a train route to that side. Harbors exist on this side, but they will give 10, 20, or 30 points rather than the 20, 30, or 40 points from the other side. And the tickets to this side do not have those try to get a bunch of tickets in a certain order. They're just simply different kinds of tickets here, connecting Marathon to Cleveland, Detroit to Montreal, etc. And so that's, you'll also notice the score track looks different. It comes down both sides of the board, but that's more of a just how it looks and how it plays rather than how any major change to the game. Now, you're going to start with different number of cards for both sides of the board. You will end when you get down to a certain number of pieces, which is also different for both sides of the board. And after that point, each player is going to have 2 extra rounds before the game ends. At that point, you'll add up all points for tickets and things like that. There is no longest route or most tickets in this game. You're simply going to take points from harbors at the end of the game, add them to your scores, plus completed or non-completed tickets, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, there certainly is a lot of pieces in this game. You can't fault them for the ships look cool. I do want to say...
Trains are even cooler.
And this is a minor thing, but I found myself constantly getting confused when I had a handful of cards with the ships and the trains. I almost wish they'd made them different colors.
Well, they have an index in the corner, but it's very tiny. It's almost a throwaway index.
So I was actually
system.
like putting my cards down in 2 different piles.
Yeah.
Because I kept saying, "Oh, I got 3 pink trains."
I actually had 3 different piles.
What was it? The third pile for?
I would have trains, ships, and then cards that I was reserving for harbors.
Right, because you have these cards, you're like, okay, I'm going to use these cards for this, I'm going to use these cards for this. So I had cards like all over the table
Yeah.
as I'm
I
playing
usually
this game.
never do that with Ticket to Ride.
Right.
But I had to do it with this one.
You need to realize when playing this game that it is longer than Ticket to Ride. What does the box say here for time? It says 90 to 120 minutes. That's extremely accurate, although I think 90 is 2 players. You're going to be playing 2 hours, likely.
Yeah.
And we're all, I would say, expert Ticket to Ride players, so we know what we're doing.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert.
Well, I would say I'm an expert. I've played Ticket to Ride at least 100 times. I don't know.
I have 2, but
I'm an expert. I've played at least like 7
Let me
or 8
rephrase
times,
that
man.
then. We're all experienced at Ticket to Ride. Is that better?
better word.
I want to keep expert though.
So it's not like we didn't know what we're doing. So we came into this having played. Well, you've played most of them. I definitely played all of the Ticket to Ride so far. So, but this one feels completely different than all of them.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, there's certainly the whole connect the tickets and draw cards and stuff, but it has a very different feel. I would be very cautious, I think, to teach this to anyone who's never played Ticket to Ride before.
Well, what aspects of it felt different to you?
Well, I mean, the aspects. I mean, how it's different. First of all, you have the 2 different hands, the ships and the things.
Yeah.
The tickets are there. The harbors are a whole thing of itself. Keeping track of the harbors.
Okay, 2 types of connecting bits.
And you have
harbors.
What do you call it? Those tickets that you have to go in order. Those
Tickets that you have to
prioritized
go in
tickets.
order, yeah, like a tour.
The spots where you need 2 different trains to connect them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all minor
that
stuff
affects how you
together,
play
but
it.
when you combine it together, I'm saying it's a big jump. It feels different than all the other Ticket to Rides. It's not like
This is not a gateway.
I could say
Ride.
Ticket to Ride Europe is like Ticket to Ride, but it also adds the stations.
Yeah.
Okay, bam. Ticket to Ride Markland is Ticket to Ride with passengers. I can't say that about this one. This is Ticket to Ride with ships and tickets in order and harbors. There's a lot going on in this one compared to the other ones.
Okay.
And a wraparound board, which incidentally I really did not like as... I like the idea of the wraparound board. I found it difficult to remember... Oh, this one, especially when they had like 4 trains here and one on the other side.
Yeah.
That was really
That's
kind of...
That's the only aspect of the wrapping board.
No, that's what I'm saying.
didn't
I like the idea of it, but the implementation, I always got confused. Like, oh, that's right. I can
Right.
go that way.
Right.
I actually enjoyed that aspect of it. I liked how the board wrapped. I thought that was cool. The only part of it that I didn't think was cool was the fact that they had, I think it was from LA to Tokyo. They have one thing on the LA side of the board, and then on the Tokyo side, there's like 5 more. And I'm like, only one to Tokyo. All right, well, oh no, it's not one to Tokyo.
That's actually what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the wraparound board,
Right.
but that where they had only one train, and then some of them they didn't do that, so then that made it even a little bit more confusing.
It's only on one side and not the other,
Yeah.
right?
But all right.
I guess for me, what you guys are saying, you, Tom, are saying the game feels so very different. There's all these new things. I agree. There's a few different aspects. And some of them I liked. In fact, all of them I liked in theory. I read this rule book as soon as it was available. I was excited for this game. It sounded like Ticket to Ride for gamers. And I'm on board with that. I like Ticket to Ride a lot, and a Ticket to Ride for gamers sounds like a good idea. However, to me, in my opinion, this did not feel...
Wow.
You don't need to clarify that.
Oh, I do. I really do. This did not feel like Ticket to Ride for gamers. This felt like Ticket to Ride for people with nothing else to do for another extra hour, even though you could just play Ticket to Ride again. That's what this feels like. It feels like the same involvement, the same amount of luck, the same amount of, I don't want to say randomness. I'll stick with luck. But for 2 hours instead of 1. There is, I would assume, I'm not a game designer, but I would assume if I want to take a game that is a well-known family-style game, and I want to make that game for gamers, there's something I would remove and something I would add. I would probably remove luck, give the players more choices that are more meaningful, and I would add more strategy, which is the same thing. Give them more meaningful choices. This game, for me, did neither one of those things. It's just longer. And that's my main problem with it.
Your response?
Take luck out of a game, and you kind of take some of the fun out of it.
Well, I didn't say
Yes, you
remove
did.
all the luck. I said remove some
You
luck.
said take one out and put it into place. So
Yeah.
you said
This
take
game-
luck out and add in strategy.
Yes, this game should be less lucky. In fact, it's quite possibly luckier than regular Ticket to Ride.
I
You
would
have
agree
a
with
pool
that.
of cards.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And that pool of cards, if you are looking for ships, in Ticket to Ride, you're looking for trains, there will be 5 cards you can pick from. Now, they might all be garbage, okay? I'm not saying that. But there's a pool of 5. In this game, if you're looking for trains, there's a pool of anywhere between 6 and none.
Because of the replacing from
Because
whichever
you can
side.
replace from either deck.
Which I hate. But
Right. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a game that has the same amount of luck, or more, in your opinion.
No, you
But
said
it's-
it. I just agreed with you.
Well, you said you think there's more luck in this than in Ticket to Ride.
You said it. I agreed with you.
Yes.
There's a difference.
So I don't like that. I think that that's just not. And I would have given the players more tactics, more strategy, but less luck. Something they can mitigate a little bit.
I think there is more strategy, and I think there are more tactics in the game because you really do have to. Hand management in this copy of Ticket to Ride is through the roof. That is the crux of this game at this point. It's not just blind drawing until you have a hand of 50,000 cards. I mean, you do kind of have to do that.
You kind of end up doing that
at points. You have to do that. In the games that I've played, I've only had to do that once. The other times I had maybe
Move your hands?
Yeah. The other times I had maybe 5 cards left at the end of the game. And all I'm saying with that is that hand management is where it's at. You have to manage your hand in order to get those harbors built. And if you don't get the harbors built, you're simply not going to win.
No, I get that.
More
Again,
often than not.
Ticket to Ride does that, right? I mean, Ticket to Ride is a hand management kind of rummy game.
True, I understand, but I think this makes the hand management mechanic, it rises to the surface.
You mean it's more important?
Yes.
Or a better mechanism?
What do you mean? It's the same mechanism.
I think it might be more important. I think it's a worse mechanism when the pool is anywhere, a combination of trains and ships. I think it's a worse mechanism, but it very well could be more important that you manage that well.
Okay. I'm saying that you have to manage your hand more in this game than you ever have had to in other Ticket to Ride games.
And I might very well agree with that, and I'm saying building that hand that you have to manage is more random than in other Ticket to Ride
I disagree with that because you can pick and choose when you draw cards. You have a hand of cards. You choose. I'm going to play these now, or no. I see out of the corner of my eye something I might need in the future. I'm going to snipe those now.
That's like Ticket to Ride does that.
No, but I'm saying it's more elevated in this because you're not only trying to get those cards for tickets, you're also getting them for those harbors, and building those harbors can be very, very difficult if you're not choosing wisely when to draw the cards that you need for that.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying with the hand management aspect of it. I think it's better in this than in other games because in other games of Ticket to Ride, I feel like I'm just getting as many. Now, what can I do with all these cards that I have in my hand? Now I'm picking and choosing which cards I draw, and yeah, I have to blind draw a lot as well because sometimes the cards that are out there are not what I need. But that's the same as the regular Ticket to Ride. You do that a lot in regular Ticket to Ride too. So I don't think there's very much different. I think this is more strategic. I think it's more tactical. It is not my favorite of the line of the brand, but I did enjoy it.
Now, I love Ticket to Ride. I love Ticket to Rides. I've ranked almost every Ticket to Ride set a 10. Even the ones that I don't like as much as others, like Europe, I'm not as keen on as Europe. I find Europe too easy because I think the stations just make it too easy. And I want there to be tension. I still really enjoy it. This is the first Ticket to Ride that I have actually disliked. Not thought was mediocre. I actually dislike it. And I played both sides of the map and I disliked them. Although I think I dislike the world side more because here's my reasons why I dislike it. I extremely, hatredly, I don't know if that's not a word,
That's not a word.
Hatefully dislike that drawing card thing. I really do. I like drawing the 2 cards. I do not understand why when you draw a card, you just don't replace it from the same deck. When you have to draw a card from the next deck, you are simply going to say, oh, I'm going to rob someone else of the cards they want. So eventually it all fills up with ships. Almost always. Yes, players need ships, so sometimes it will fill up with trains, but you don't want to give people wilds. Wilds in this game are even more powerful than they are in the original game because of the harbors. because the harbors alone, you can use wilds for harbors. That makes wilds critically important. But wilds are also important because of two other things I dislike in this game. One is you can block people off in this game extremely easily with no way for them to come back from it. And with tickets in this game, the average points for tickets are much higher than most Ticket to Ride games. When you get blocked off, you're losing a lot of points. And you could say, well, you can go around this long way here. Sometimes, but sometimes you just get blocked off. And then harbors. Harbors, I have not yet seen or played a game of this where whoever built their harbors best did not win. You got to build harbors. And harbors are, I mean, on the one board, you can get 60 points from a harbor. The last game we played, I got 90 points from my harbors. It's crazy amounts of points. I mean, I literally won the game because of harbors.
But how many tickets did you not finish in order to get those 90 points?
A few.
4.
Yes, but that brings
Or
me
5.
to another thing I dislike about the game. I highly agree with Z. I don't think, you're like, I don't know if luck's more. No, I'm just going to go flat out. This isn't in my opinion. This is fact. Okay, it's not. It's really my opinion. But it feels like this game is 50% or more lucky than all the other Ticket to Rides. Because you have to draw from the top of the deck almost always. You draw 2 wild trains. It's not like somewhat better. It's amazingly better. You draw double ships over single ships. Sure, some single ships are good for building the harbors, but those double ships, way better. You start with a handful of some double ships. So I've seen people build a 5 or 6 route on turn 1 because they got lucky in that regard. That's a big deal. But even more so are those initial ticket draws. If you get an initial ticket draw where, you're usually trying to get your tickets to line up together. But if you get 2 tickets that go to the same spot, you're building a harbor there right away, and your chance of that gives you a lot more points from that harbor. Yeah. And as you draw tickets throughout the game, if you happen to draw tickets that match up to a harbor you've built on the board, that's a huge swing. It's not a minor swing, it's a huge swing. Yeah, Ticket to Ride has always had that luck where I'm like, all right, I'm going to draw tickets and hope one of them is on the route. Yeah. And you get it, you win. And some people don't like that. I like that.
Or all 3 of them.
But this time it can be even worse. You can draw and say, I finished it, and it's attached to a harbor. That's like a 40-point thing I just drew there.
The hyperbole is strong with these two. I think there is a little bit more luck in this one. A little bit more. But it's really the same kind of luck. Drawing blindly from the ship deck, I don't think I've ever done that. I'm always picking and choosing which ones I'm drawing.
Because the ships are always out there.
Well, that's probably true. But I'm hardly never drawing from the 2 ships off the top and blindly getting those. If I'm picking a single ship, it's because it's open and it's there and it's one of the ones I need. If I don't need it, I'm not drawing it. And I'm also not drawing from the ship deck. I'm drawing from the train deck so that I can possibly get a wild. There's a different kind of luck here, but I don't think it's as magnified as you two are leading on. I really don't.
There is one negative thing I think you do agree with, and maybe you don't, but I thought you said you agreed with it, and that is this game comes with ships and trains. And they're like, hey, at the beginning of the game, you can pick how many you want from each one after you look at your tickets and stuff. Ooh, that sounds interesting, right? It's like totally a crapshoot.
I always go with what they recommend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I read this rule book, as soon as it was available, I read it. Everything read great. I liked that. When I read that, I'm like, and then you have to penalize yourself if you didn't get to make the right choice. It sounded great.
Yeah.
It reads well. In game, it's a mechanism that could have been left on the cutting room floor, is all I'm saying, and it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, just play with what they tell you to start with.
Just
I
tell
always
people,
have because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, just tell people what you start with. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
all.
now am I mistaken? You can choose which ones after you look at your tickets?
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a little bit more sense.
It does, but even if you
until someone
connect all
blocks
those,
you in one little spot and you go, my count was wrong.
Okay, but I mean, again, that's not a flaw of the game. That's somebody played a little bit better than you did.
No, people block you in, like I said. So someone can build a 5-route ship on the first turn in a spot that I needed to go to. That's not someone played better than me. They drew better cards in the first turn. And this isn't, like me making something up. This is something that actually happened in a game.
That's true, it did.
But I don't mind people blocking me in these games. I mean, that's going to happen. Blocking you on the first turn is kind of not super fun.
That has happened to me
in a
with other
2-hour
Ticket to
game.
Rides. That has happened to me with the other Ticket to Ride games as well. It's not specific to this game. That's my main thing that I'm trying to make
saying
here.
it's amplified in this game.
I think at the end of the game, for me, it's just not... The game, it looks great. The game works. My big thing, the biggest sin here that the game commits is that the game is longer and luckier. And I'm pretty sure that just about everybody agrees that those two things shouldn't go together. I don't care if a game is perfectly random and it's 20 minutes. And I don't care if
Watch
a game...
our last Miami Dice review.
I did not mind. Well, I didn't mind the luck and how it was a little bit more in this one because I think it's mitigatable. Okay. I really do think so.
I disagree, but...
You disagree.
Yes.
And I just think hand management is where you mitigate that.
Okay.
That's where it has to be done. Now, the whole blocking, that's going to happen. And there's nothing really that you can do about that other than finding a way around and making sure you get those pieces laid.
But I'm just saying the ways around in this game are not as simple as like regular Ticket to Ride. I can almost always say, you blocked me here, I got it.
So when one of those places gets blocked, you got to make sure you put your next turn is make sure I got a space to where I get. Now, how can I connect there?
By drawing cards for a really long time, hoping...
Not necessarily. Yeah, it could happen where you get blocked at the worst point in the game where you don't have the cards that you need to get to that space. That can happen. But I think that's a rarity.
All right, what are your thumbs?
I'm going to give it half a circus wagon up.
Well, we didn't really hit on one point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Price.
I'm going to give it no wagons up.
That was the biggest sin for me of this game. Is charging $80 for a $50 game.
Well, it has a lot more pieces.
Nah, but the pieces are chintzier than in the original Ticket to Rides. They're made of thinner plastic.
They are?
Yes, they are.
Definitely are.
They're much chintzier than in the original Ticket to Ride. That's the major sin that this one. They said, hey, we're putting more pieces in it. Hey, we're giving you more. Ooh, double-sided board. So we're gonna add $30 to the price.
Well, you are getting more cards.
Shame.
I'm not as hung up on the price point. For me, this is gonna get a solid thumb down with the conductor's whistle hanging from it. I don't hate it. That would be 2 thumbs down, and because that's still Ticket to Ride. And a lot of that is disappointment because I was really hoping this would be great. But when I'm halfway through the game, going, "Is it over yet? Is it over yet?" That's bad. I never think that in Ticket to Ride. In Ticket to Ride, I'm like, "Oh, it's almost over, and I haven't done anything." Here, I'm like, "Come on, end the game, end the game." So anyway. I know you like it though, right? 2 thumbs up.
I do like it, and I'm going to give it 1.5 thumbs up. And that half a thumb is because of the price. Yes, and that's fine.
Well,
so
hopefully that gives you at least enough information that you guys can decide whether you want it or not, because I really think this one will be divisive. I do.
Yeah, it will be. It will be because if you like the basic Ticket to Ride thing, I don't think this is going to hit your wheelhouse. You're not going to like it at all because it is more complex than that is. It's not that gateway experience. But at the same time, I think if you like something like... if you enjoy the Nordic countries, or if you enjoy any of the other ones that have that next level of complexity that's there, I think you should at least give it a try.
I think you should try it. Sure, yeah. I mean, I always say people should try it, but I like all of those games, and I still didn't really like this one.
With the $80 price tag, though, I cannot say go out and buy it.
No, right.
I have to say you must try this before you buy it.
All right, well, that's our lengthy review of Ticket to Ride Rails and Sales. I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, thank you, folks.
Sam Healey, see you on the flip side.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.